All right, we're over here at the Sonnax vac test station, have the 6R140 assembled valve body halves, and we are going to test each one of these valve trains to confirm or deny adequate sealing integrity. So the standard I like to adhere to is a minimum of 15 inches and a maximum of 22. Any more than 22, sometimes 23, but most of the time 22. Any more than that, chances are the valve is going to drag a little bit when vehicles, back on the road and whatnot. So if you're in excess of 22 in a working valve, then it's my recommendation you polish the bore a little bit until you can get under 22 inches of lift. So anyway, one of the most important things you need to do before testing any valve body on these machines is to calibrate the machine. And I calibrate this machine every single time I use it, because in my experience, it only takes a couple of cycles for the machine to drift out of calibration. If that happens and you don't catch it, or you're not calibrating it, then your results are probably not going to be accurate. So first thing you need to do, and this is especially true if you pull it out of the box, you pull it out of the box, no way in hell it's going to be on calibration. So first thing you need to do, if you haven't done it already, is take your test lead, which is coming out of the test fitting there. Take the lead off of your test block and insert it into the calibration receptacle. Okay, make sure it's fully seated, and then you're going to have your other hose out to your air pump. Now, when you buy the machine from Sonnax, it's not going to come with an air pump. You can get air pumps pretty much anywhere, any hardware store like Lowe's, Home Depot, Harbor Freight, etc. And I'm not sure what the flow rate on this one is. I'll annotate the video, but most any standard air pump will work well with this machine. So what you're going to now want to do is turn the machine on, and you have two adjustment valves here. You have a pump valve and you have a bleeder valve. You're going to use these two valves to bring the machine into calibration. So when you turn the machine on, you're going to see the needle somewhere between 0 and 10 inches of lift. So 10 inches of vacuum. You want to adjust your pump valve such that the needle's reading at a steady 5 inches. Okay. Now once it's reading 5 inches, you're going to come over here to the side of the machine. You're going to see a little hole. This is the calibration port. You're going to plug this hole with a finger to introduce maximum vacuum, and you're going to watch the needle jump up somewhere between 20 and 30 inches. You want that needle to rest steadily on 25 inches of lift. So then you're going to adjust your bleeder valve so that you can accomplish that. So we'll go ahead, we'll turn the machine on. We're going to see where it is. I used this machine yesterday, so I expect that it will be close to 5 inches, but let's double check. Okay, so looks like it's reading a hair above 5, and I mean a hair, like literally the equivalent width of one of those indicator lines or stadia. So to increase vacuum on the pump side, you turn the knob counterclockwise. To decrease it, you turn it clockwise. All right, so where it looks like we are a hair above 5, we're going to get it right at 5, and then I'm going to plug the calibration port, and it looks like we are a hair above 25, so I'm actually going to turn this counterclockwise to decrease and then clockwise to increase. Alright, so once we have 25 and we're steadily reading it, go ahead and let off, and then count 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. You're still on 5 inches of lift, then the machine's calibrated, and that's it. That's literally all there is to it. Alright, so now you can go ahead and take your test hose, stick it in your test block. Again, make sure it's secure. And then you have your gasket. Make sure this gasket is clean. Okay, if you need to, wipe it down with a rag or a shop towel or something. You don't want any crud on this either. I mean, it probably takes a lot of, grime and dirt or whatever to interfere with the reading, but still. You want to make sure that when you position the gasket, you're right over the hole for the test block itself. All right, so we've installed the Sonnax zip kit into this valve body. Every single part that came in that kit is now in both of these halves. So the test booklet that comes with the kit will have the vacuum test guide. Looks like on page 4 and 5, and this is what I'm going to be referring to. I will flash images on the screen, so as we're going through the test process for each one of these castings, you'll just see either this one or this one, depending on what one we're doing, steadily on the screen so you can follow along. Otherwise, it gets real clunky if I'm constantly shoving this in front of the camera and, you know, trying to go back and forth. But I will be referring to it because I'm not super familiar with these transmissions, so I haven't done this enough to where it's just, you know, down to where I've memorized it. So just be aware of that. If you see like gaps or you hear paper being folded or whatever, that's what I'm doing. All right, so we have, this is going to be our upper valve body. This is going to be the lower valve body. The lower valve body is where all your linear variable force solenoids are housed. So the upper valve body is going to contain all of your regulator valves. So your overdrive regulator, your 2.6, your forward, your direct, and your low reverse. And then you're going to have a TCC charge control and applied boost valve here and here respectively. All right, and then I'll cover the valve trains when we do the lower valve body. So for all valve bodies that I can test, I record my results on a sheet that looks like this. So this will be no different. So occasionally you might, again, you know, see a pause and I'm writing something. I'm just recording the values. I don't know to what extent you'll see it, but I'll flash all of the results in front of the camera after we get done testing each one of these circuits. So let me go ahead and fire the machine up. All of your regulator valves, you're going to have an inboard position you're going to test. So for example, here would be inboard for the overdrive or 456, and then this is the outboard position, and then so on and so forth down the line. All right, so first is going to be the overdrive clutch regulator. Drawing a blank. And the way I have these on the sheet, they're not exactly in the order that I would test them in. But first position is going to be right here. Back to match, I can turn it this way. Okay, right over this, I don't know, chair-shaped casting. Okay, it looks like we're at 17. You're going to have to put a little bit of force, you know, a little bit of pressure on it, just to make sure that your reading is accurate. Okay, here's the outboard position in this rectangle. Okay, 20 inches. So 2.6. The 2.6 is giving us 17 as well. That's inboard. And then outboard. Here with this channel that looks like number 1. All right, 17 and a half. No, 18 and a half. 18 and a half. Okay, forward. Maybe this thing here. It's kind of like Montana. You know, kind of turned on its end. And that's giving us 20 and a half. Outboard, rectangle. And outboard is like 15 and a half. All right. Direct. So it's going to be this kind of reversed L. 20. If it's not quite at the hash mark, I'm going to record, you know, the next one down from it as far as measurements, you know, just to be conservative. All right, outboard. I could have explained that better. So we have another number 1 casting, or 1-shaped channel. Now this one's a little low. It's only at 12. Let's test it again. 12 and a half. not the end of the world, but it's a little low for my tastes. Alright, so there's nothing to test in here until you get to here. So this is going to be low reverse. Low reverse checks good at 18. And then outboard is going to be in this kind of mushroom shaped casting, or channel rather. And we are at 17, just shy of 17 and a half. Alright, now we'll do TCC charge control. I'm going to turn everything over. Alright, we're going to be here for your test. Let's see how this is. Alright, 20 and a half. Alright, that's the only position you're going to test that particular valve train. Alright, so now we have 3 positions we need to test in this TCC apply. So, first one's going to be here, the second one's going to be here. Third one is going to be here. It actually has a 4th position right here, so I don't even have that on my friggin', my friggin' data sheet. So that's a miss on my part. I'll have to record that somewhere else. Alright, very inboard is 22, kind of at our max. Alright, next one is the channel here. Got that teardrop shape at the lower right. That's going to be at 15. That's fine. TCC applied boost outboard is going to be this channel. It's also 15. And then I'm going to put TCC applied boost sleeve. And that's actually going to be this channel right here. And this is solid at 17, no, 18. Alright, so that is our upper valve body. And what I did here is I have this on here twice, so I'm gonna have to revise this template. So the concerning valve here, I should say, if I could speak English, is going to be the outboard side of that direct clutch regulator valve. It's a little low for a heavy duty unit. It's a little low. And unfortunately, that central valve bodies kit does not have a gently oversized regulator valve for the 35R/direct. So, we'll have to make a judgment call. All right, let me get this out of the way. Like I said, 12.5 is not the end of the world. I mean, if it was like 10, I mean, at that point, he'd be purchasing a reman, or even if I find him like a good used valve body half that doesn't have that issue and no other issues for that matter, that would be an option as well. It just has to be compatible. So, you know, there's been numerous changes to the valve bodies for these things over the years from 2011 through end of production. So you just want to make sure that you have a correct lower if you're trying to mate it to an upper and vice versa. All right, so that's the upper valve body. Now we're going to deal with the lower valve body. The manual valve is not tested. There's really not too many reported issues with the manual valve for the 140s. The 5R110s, the predecessor transmission to these, especially in diesels, is known to have wear at the manual valve. So it's just, I guess, something to be cognizant of if you're seeking to work on those units but maybe haven't started yet. Sonnax makes a replacement manual valve that deals with that issue. Okay, so let's go over the valve trains here. So you're going to have, these are all your latch valves. You're going to have your 456 latch, your 26, your forward or 1, 2, 3, 4, your direct, and then nothing over here. And then you're going to have your solenoid feed pressure regulator valve in this position, and then a low reverse clutch latch valve. And then over here you have your main pressure regulator valve and your end plug. We put the O-ring end plug in there. And then you're going to have, this valve is your TCC charge limit valve. And then over here is where you're going to have your cooler bypass valve set up if you have a unit that's 2016 and older. If not, you'll have just a slug, if you will. And then inboard, you're going to have your converter limit valve. And we have the Sonnax valve kit in there from the Zip. So all these have one position to test, except for this last one here. That's going to have multiple positions. That's this one up here. This one has 2 positions here. And then you're only going to test this at this position and this position. So, all right, let's fire it up and see what we got. Okay, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be this thing here, this circuit with the channel. All right, looks like we're at 18 on the nose. All right, intermediate is going to be pretty much right next to it, in line. Actually, this one. Maybe it's this one, sorry. All right, 17. Like I said, I don't do too many of these in the diagrams misleading. Forward. Maybe this large rectangle. Forward is a bit weak. We are at 13. Solenoid feed pressure regulator. No, I'm sorry. We need to do the direct first. That's way up there at 23. Okay, keep in mind there are end plugs with O-rings installed. So that's probably what I'm getting, but I want to make sure that there is not any kind of binding issue on the direct. So I'll check it with the screwdriver. Alright, now we have our solenoid feed regulator valve. That's right there. Let's try that again. So we're at 11. That stinks. Alright, low reverse. There's going to be two test points. There's an inboard and outboard, and they're literally right next to each other. So you have your outboard, and then you have your inboard. So we'll do inboard first. That's not right. Now let me try outboard. Alright, outboard's at 22.5. This is supposed to yield a reading, so I have a feeling there's something that I'm not doing right here. Alright, I'm just having to put some pressure on it, and we are at 12. Alright, now we're going to move to the end plug and the inboard circuit for the main pressure regulator valve. So here's main PR. We'll do that first. Ooh, that's a bit weak at 11.5. And then end plug, let's see how that is. Okay, this is giving me 8. 8. Let's try it again. Okay, 8.5. Okay, next is going to be our TCC charge limit. So there's two positions here, and they are here and here respectively. Okay, 15 is good. Now let's see how this is. 15 is passable. Alright, now we have the apply regulator valve. There's actually 3 positions. You have here, and then you have this big cavity here. So, of course, I don't have 2 of them on. Oh yeah, I do. Never mind. That's your converter limit, and that's what I was referring to. Okay, that's 18. Like I said, I need to redo this template. I screwed it up, and it's screwing me up, and it's making me look like an imbecile on video, which I don't need too much help with that, but still. Alright, this is only giving me like 10 and a half. And then this outboard circuit. And that's giving me 13. Actually, let me try. Okay. So we had 18, we had and we had 12 and a half. And we had, okay, it's a little bit better. 14. 14's not the end of the world. Alright. I must have done something wrong with that first pass, I don't know, but it didn't seem quite right, so that's why I did it again. Alright. Alright, so here's our results. Kind of a mixed bag, to be honest. So forward or 1, 2, 3, 4. It's technically a fail. Line control pressure end plug. Main PR. Converter limit. And then TCC apply regulator. 13 is kind of borderline. I marked this as a fail. To be honest, in a stock application, you can probably get away with it. I mean, I'll mark it here just to be consistent, but I'm not overly concerned down to 13. 15 is like really my ideal floor, but I've seen multiple transmissions, not just these. I haven't done that many of these, but just multiple transmissions collectively test out with valves sealing at 13 and above, and I've never had one come back due to premature failure. And this is going all the way back as long as I've owned this machine, which is I think 5 or 6 years. So let's see, V5R clutch regulator, 12 and a half. Okay, so that's what we're up against. Let me bring that central valve body's valve kit over here. Alright, so we have a main PR valve and end plug in this kit. We have a forward clutch latch valve. There's that solenoid regulator valve. It's in the lower valve body. I don't know what I'm looking on the upper valve body for. Solenoid regulator, that failed. So we do in fact have one of these, so that'll get thrown in. Forward clutch regulator, that passed, so that's fine. TCC. I think the TCCs for the most part were okay. And here's the converter limit. The middle converter limit valve is a little low for some reason. I'm going to talk to Sonnax about that. There might be something. I'm going to check it again just to be sure that I didn't do something incorrect. For clutch reg. Okay, so we have 3 valves that we're going to install. So let me do that off camera and then we'll go ahead and retest. And so let's make a note here. So we have the main PR valve. All right, let me do that and then we'll be right back. All right, so we have our central valve body's main pressure regulator valve installed, as well as the solenoid regulator and forward clutch latch valves. So that's these valves on here respectively on the towel. These were the factory equivalents. And I also installed the central valve body's end plug just because I'm curious to see how it will test out compared to the O-ringed end plug that Sonnax makes. I would be very surprised if it, tested better, but maybe it will. So, we'll see. I also have the instructions here for the oversized direct clutch regulator valve. These unfortunately require you to have this toolkit along with this reamer fixture. Okay, so you have this reamer fixture. Obviously I have not used it in quite a while, but that's just simply because I haven't had to, but it looks like I may need to dust it off based on the conversation I have with the Sonnax tech group. So I'm going to call them up and let the tech know, hey, here's what I have for my readings inboard and outboard, and this is what they recommend, or this is what they tell you should see once you ream the bore and install their oversized valve kit. So 18 inboard and 16 outboard. I'm at 12.5, I'm only 3.5 inches off, but let's just say you had a really, really low reading in the direct clutch regulator. This is what you may end up with inside the case in the direct or 3.5R clutch pack. Yeah, this is out of the same transmission, and these are smoked. I mean, they're absolutely smoked. So were they smoked because of weakness there on that outboard position? Maybe. I'm still of the suspicion that they were smoked because the driver of this vehicle was trying to free himself out of the sand, and he was revving the engine both in drive and in reverse, going back and forth. And when you do that, I mean, you're doing 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs, and that tire's just spinning and spinning. I mean, that's going to burn up whatever clutches are working at the time. So I'm still of the mind that that is the underlying or root cause, if you will, behind why those frictions and steels burned in the direct, as well as the forward, why they welded themselves together. He obviously spent a little bit more time in drive trying to free himself, but I'm gonna have a conversation with the tech at Sonnax to see if 12.5 is something that should be repaired. or if it's something that, we could let slide and kind of see what happens. But let's go ahead and test these and see what we come up with, and we'll go from there. Alright, so inboard on the main pressure regulator valve, let's see if there's any difference. Okay, we're at 18. Alright, let's see what that end plug gives us. Now this is inboard of the end plug, so it's technically not the end plug we're testing, but... I screwed that up, let me try it again. Alright, we're still low at 10. So the Sonnax end plug is going to go back in. Actually, no, it's better. This was 8.5. I'm sorry. Try to test it one more time. Alright, still gives me 10. Alright, so that's all recorded. Okay. Alright, let's test our solenoid regulator valve. Let's see if we have any improvement whatsoever. So it's going to be here. Okay, that's better. It's 17. And forward clutch latch. And that's that big square shape, the rectangular shape cut out. And that is at 22.5. Alright, so here are the updated results. I don't know why this end plug is testing so poorly. I'm going to ask the Sonnax tech about this because I have a feeling I'm doing something wrong. I mean, it tested 8.5 with this bore plug installed. This bore plug's O-ring. That makes no sense to me. And then I need to talk to him about the direct regulator valve to see if that 12.5 is truly cause for concern, or if it can be kind of, allowed to slide, so to speak. And then based on what he says, we'll go from there when it comes to the valve body. So, all right, stand by, and we'll resume once I get some answers. Just got off the phone with Sonnax and spoke to him about the kind of weak reading in the 3.5R clutch regulator valve. And while he said that's not super urgent, it's kind of borderline. Hard to say how long hold up or last, but he mentioned that at around 10 inches, 9 inches, it's going to need the the oversized valve kit that they sell, and that requires the bore to be reamed. So I agree. My standard is the same, 9-10 inches. If it's holding that, then a drop-in oversized valve is usually not going to cure it. and you need to ream the bore and install a truly oversized valve in that location if you have that problem. And that's assuming one exists for it. Sometimes you're just stuck and you got to replace the valve body with either a good used one or a reman unit. All right, spoke to him as well about the bore plug here for the pressure regulator valve. I mean, it's an O-ring valve, so there's no way it should be holding only 10 inches of lift. And he had recommended, not necessarily associated with this valve, but he recommended testing the inboard spool, the PR valve, in what we call the regulatory position, meaning the valve is in a position where it's actively regulating line pressure as opposed to just being at rest. And he said that a lot of times that will yield a more accurate reading because you're testing it as it would be when it's working. And so I did that off camera, and I discovered that not only is the reading here understated when you test it at the rest position versus the regulatory position, it's also significantly understated here. So in other words, when you go and test the main PR valve in these valve bodies, you want to take a screwdriver and just pry forward here on this spool while you test each one of these locations, because your readings are going to be different and much better than they are when the valve is just simply a rest position. And that's not in the instructions when it comes to testing this valve train. So I did recommend that if they do updates on the website with all these instructions, to make a note there somewhere that you need to kind of pry this forward. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. Let me go get a screwdriver. We'll turn the vacuum machine on, and then we will test both of these locations again and record the updated results. Alright, I've already calibrated the machine, and I say that because it's actually the next day. He was not able to get back to me until later in the day yesterday. From your point of view, it's instantaneous, but from my point of view, an entire day has passed. So anyway, we have it showing here, reading at 17 inches of lift in the rest position. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flat blade screwdriver and I'm going to gently pry forward on this valve. And as you can see, the needle moves. It's holding 21 inches at the full regulatory position. Okay, back to 17 at rest, 21 inches, back to 17. Okay, so make sure you do that if you're going to test these 6R140 valve bodies. Now, we're going to put the test block right here. This is the bore plug, and we'll test it at the rest position. Alright, it's holding like 10.5 inches. Alright, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever until you test the valve in the regulatory position. Then what happens is that valve pushes on the spring centers the bore plug in the bore, and when it does that, it seals it off. Alright, so we're at 15. 15's fine. I'd personally like to see 20, but this is a particularly worn bore at this location here at the mouth. So again, with these transmissions, with this valve constantly working that spring and pushing on that bore plug, it's going to wallow out the mouth of the bore here. So that's why you always want to have an O-ring bore plug or an otherwise oversized plug like the one that comes in the CVP kit. And either way, that'll help you kind of address concerns with this main PR valve. Alright, so given what we learned about testing the pressure regulator valve when it's in the regulatory position, in other words stroked, as opposed to just sitting at rest, and the changes that we saw in the readings, I want to actually retest all of the other regulator valves for the rest of the clutches so that we can determine if they in fact change and possibly get a more accurate reading for all of them. So I'm going to take this valve body away. This is going to be our lower valve body, and we will bring the upper valve body back. And we have all of our valve trains here. So we have overdrive /456, 2/6, forward, direct, and low reverse. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to test inboard and outboard. I'm going to stroke the valve inboard, and then we'll see how it is reading wise as we manipulate each valve. So we'll test it inboard, then we'll test it outboard. And to test it outboard, while it's stroked, I'm going to have to use a pick and try to get in here and, you know, just manipulate the valve where I can on one of the spools. And it may be tricky, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. Alright. So 456 inboard. Alright, that's like 16 at rest. But now we'll go ahead and regulate it. Manipulate it forward. And at its maximum extent that I can get it, where it looks like at 21 and a half. Alright, now here's the outboard position. And this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky, because I gotta somehow get this valve to stroke inboard with this pick. Alright, it's at 16 and a half at rest, and looks like 17 and a half stroke. Alright, now we'll do 2.6. And get it in the right position, in the right location. So at rest, we're at 17. Now we're stroking it. Looks like it's a 22 at maximum. Alright, now we're putting it at the number 1 position, so to speak. At rest. And stroke, we're at 22. Okay, no signs of drag or anything like that. Everything feels perfectly fine. Alright, now we have our forward. Okay, forward is already high at 20 and a half, so let's see what happens. Okay, it goes up to 22 and a half. That's not too bad. Alright, now we'll do outboard. Alright, outboard, it's like 12 and a half. Alright, looks like it's climbing to 20 and a half. Alright, 35R inboard. Alright, 354 inboard is 20, so it's already very strong. And it looks like it climbs to 22 at full extension. Alright, now we'll test outboard. If I can get my hands on the gasket. Alright, so we're weak right now, 11 and a half. I think we had 12 and a half prior. So we're going to stroke it. And at full regulatory position, it's at, I'm going to call it 19 and a half. Alright, we'll reverse. Alright. Looks like it's 17 and a half at rest. Get that hose out of the way, the gauge. Full extension, we're at 20, 21 and a half, 22. I'm going to record 21 and a half. And then now outboard. And outboard's like 17. I need to reposition this because I need to be able to get access to the valve. So, all right, 17. No, 16 and a half. Full extension's giving us 18. Okay, so I believe that these results that we just gathered are more accurate than the ones we gathered previously when we just tested these valves at rest. And so, as I mentioned earlier, doing this testing by stroking the valves is not in these instructions. Nowhere in these instructions does it say that you should do this. But in speaking with the Sonnax engineer, this is what he suggested because, and his reasoning was perfectly logical. The valve is working, and when the valve is working is really what you want to test for in terms of its sealing integrity during that working phase. Because once it's at rest, it's really not doing anything. But when it goes to work, i.e. stroke or regulate, in the case of the regulator valves, you want to make sure that sealing integrity is good during that working phase. So anyway, I'm happy with these results. I think we're good to go with this valve body overall. So don't forget to watch parts 1 and 2 if you haven't already, and then look forward to seeing you on part 4. As always, thank you so much for watching. Greatly appreciate it. And you enjoy the rest of your day or evening. Thanks again.